Okay, right now we have, starting with the stick edger. With that stick edger, you can see whenever there's a vehicle parked close to the driveway and we can't edge along it, we just want to go in there and hit that with the weed eater, very carefully, being sure not to scratch any customer vehicles. And then when you see this employee edging along this sidewalk and driveway, you can see that we want to keep that stick edger nice and straight up and down. Also, whenever using the stick edger, we want to be sure and use good new blades. Don't keep edging all day with the same blade, because then you just end up with a really bad edge line. There'll be lots of stuff sticking out. Now I am looking at Guillermo along the house here, weed eating. You can see we want to make sure we keep the line along the house really clean. We don't want to weed eat too deep and scalp it, but make sure we catch everything along the house. All those little blades of grass sticking up along the house stand out like crazy for when people are driving by. Now he's going to go and edge along this bed here. It works best speed-wise if you can weed eat, if you can edge walking forward. If you need to, you can walk backwards, but it just kind of slows you down. It works better for flowing through the yard if you can walk forward. He's now going to catch that edge along that truck where we couldn't get there with the stick edger because of the space limitation. Now he's going to catch this bed out in the center of the yard before he goes back to the house area, so that he doesn't finish the whole yard and then have to walk all the way back and get the little island bed out in the center. You want to make sure you work your way across the yard, catching everything, so you don't have to go back and get it again. Pause it for a second. You can see now he turned around with the weed eater and went the opposite direction. He's going clockwise with the weed eater. Habit and comfort wants you to walk in a counterclockwise motion. When you do that, the counterclockwise motion, the more comfortable way, you throw all your clippings into the beds. With this clockwise motion, you can see you will throw all the clippings out into the yard. This makes things much faster for cleanup from when you're blowing off, and also if we do bed maintenance on the property, it makes it much faster for the bed guys to get the beds to look perfect. They can never get all those clippings out of the grass, out of the mulch. Again, keep that weed eater really nice and high. We want to cut it the exact same height as the lawnmower is cutting. We don't want it to be sloped off and cut real deep. It burns up in the summer then. You can see he's continuing to weed eat in that backwards motion, throwing all the grass out into the all the clippings out into the grass. You can see that when our employee started with the stick edging, he started over on the far end away from the truck. Now you want to make sure you kind of map out how it is that you're going to be edging this yard. You don't want to just run one line and then realize, oh, you started on the wrong end. Now you got to walk all the way back across to catch the other part. He started over here on that far end for a specific reason. He's going to go up the driveway, then back down the driveway and around the house. Then he's going to come back down along the sidewalk and then back along the street, and he's going to finish right over there by the truck, edging at all times, never having to go back, catch a little area. Whereas if you would have started at the other side of the property, you would have ended up walking all the way back twice to the far end of the house to catch all the areas. Okay, now back to the weed eater. I'm gonna make sure and give plenty of space for whoever's mowing to get in there and cut real nice. You can see that area where he's weed eating out there near the light pole. There's a lot of slope there. It drops off real sharp, so the mower's going to end up scalping those ends if you just barely do any weed eating out there and don't get it trimmed up real nice for him to just catch that front corner. Now this is a very detailed area over here. You can see we've got downspouts, we've got drainage, water catchers, we've got a hose reel, we've got a backflow, we've got a gas meter, an electric meter, probably cable wires. There's a lot of stuff that has to be trimmed around that we don't want to tear up, but we've got to get all the grass out from behind there. You can see he's reaching down in there, yanking that stuff out. So we don't want to eat up all that insulation with the weeder, and then eventually those pipes will break as well, and then we got to go out there and replace them. See, he's keeping that weeder up real nice and high, floating it above the grass so that we're not scalping it, and it's going to end up burning up in the summertime if he ends up scalping it down. If you don't have too much debris, you can throw it in the grass where it needs to be mowed, and then the lawn guy can come in and mow that debris up. With any of the mowers mowing any of these properties, we want to make sure that we do nice, long, straight lines, and we want to make sure that we change up our mowing patterns so that we don't end up with a bunch of ruts in the yard. You can see Berto just went past the front flower bed with the mower. I kind of show you how, for weed eating, we need to make sure that we give the lawn guy plenty of space. Right when he went along that front flower bed, it had been weed-eated out to a nice, good, straight, even line so that he didn't have to try and jam the mower way up in along that flower bed. There's a tiny little corner. If that had just barely been weed-eated, he would have had to have gone way up in there with the mower and probably into the flower bed with the mower, and we would have had a immediate rut through the flower bed with that lawnmower. But it was weeded out properly, and he was able to just cut a nice straight line along the front of that flower bed. So here he's going to cut 1 or 2 passes all the way around the property with the mower to give him plenty of space to make turns with the mower. And then once that's complete, we'll want to, on most properties, this one might be a little small to cut real nice straight lines, but we always want to cut straight lines as much as possible. Gives him space to make turns, and now he'll cut the center of the property. Then when we come back the following week, we'd want to maybe cut it a 45 across there long ways, or then the following week cut straight across the property to alternate those patterns. Now when you come up to bed edges, or if you're mowing along a house that has a lot of debris, you want to do that same thing that we did with the weeder. When you cut around the yard in a clockwise motion, you're going to be throwing all of your clippings straight into the bed. Keep the left hand side of the mower on the bed edge. That's a better way to put it. Always keep that left hand side. As you can see, he's going around that bed edge with the left hand side against that bed. If he had gone the other way, he would have thrown clippings all into that bed. All the clippings shoot out on that right hand side of every single lawnmower. You can see the guys blowing around the yard now. All the guys are continuing to work the entire time that they're at the property. At several points you can see them blowing out that fine line along the concrete, between the concrete and the grass. We do not want to leave that full of clipping. It can take a little extra time to get blown out from underneath all those vehicles. There he goes, blowing out the crack along the grass and the concrete. You can see he's also blowing out into that grass a little bit to help fan out all the debris so that it's not so noticeable.
Houston under